Can you believe we're at the end of our sock? Yes, we are. Here's our beautiful sock we've gotten made so far. We're using Bernat socks yarn, and mine is very bright, happy colors for summertime, or for any time really, if you're a happy person like me. We're using this pattern, Bernat socks, ankle socks, to knit. It's a free pattern on the Bernat yarn website. And I'm making the size medium sock, and that's how it looks. It's very pretty. Anyway, I was supposed to have ended up with 22 stitches at the end, and even though I was very careful, I ended up with I don't remember what I ended up with, but it wasn't 22. I couldn't get 22 stitches, so I did something wrong. I must have made a decrease at the wrong spot or something. Anyway, what Bernat wants us to do is to bind off all the stitches and stitch it, make a seam at the toe. But I prefer to do Kitchener stitch for my toes, so that's what I'm going to do. So what I did is I made, it didn't come out to 22 stitches, so I just kept decreasing until I got down to where I had 10 over here on this toe at the bottom on needle 2. And on needle 1 I had to do an extra decrease, so I would have 5 there, and on needle 3 I had to do an extra decrease there, so I would have 5 here, because what I ended up with is I had I don't even remember what I ended up with, but for some reason I had to do extra decreases. The reason why I had to do extra decreases on needle 1 and 3 is because when you do Kitchener stitch, you have to have exactly the same number of stitches at the top of the toe and at the bottom of the toe. The top of the toe is where needle 2 is. That's the top of the sock. And needle 1 and 3 is the bottom of the toe. So I have 10 stitches up here on 2, and I have 5 there and 5 here. And what I need to do is to get these first 5 stitches onto that needle, because here's where my yarn ended. I want to knit across those 5 stitches until I have the yarn at the very end. That's the way you have to do to set up for Kitchener stitch. So pardon me, I've got a little congestion here. Oh, you know what? I'm just gonna, I'll use this needle. No, I won't. I'll use that needle. I'll use needle number 3. It'll be very tight, but I think I can do it. Yeah, we can do it. We're going to knit across these 5. There's 1. It's really tight if you do it this way, but it is possible to do. Just have to be careful not to let any of the stitches slip off. So like I said, if you want to do Kitchener like I am, just make an extra decrease so that you have exactly the same number of stitches on the bottom and the top. So now you can see what I'm talking about. I have 10 up there, and I have 10 down here. Now I'm ready to do the Kitchener stitch. I like the Kitchener stitch because you don't have to seam. So you just pull this out until you have enough to seam with. To do the Kitchener stitch with. I'd say probably, we'll do about 14 inches just to be sure. We don't need that much, but we're going to pull off that much. And then you cut the yarn. First time we've had to cut the yarn from the very beginning. So now we can set our yarn aside and just let it sit there and look pretty. And now what you have to do, we just ended that way, and now you have to flip it over so that your yarn is coming from the right side, because that's where your Kitchener stitch is going to be done, from the right side. And then you just make these needle points even, like that. The only thing you really have to be careful with Kitchener stitch is to not let the stitches slip off the needles at the points. thread in that yarn needle. Okay. Pardon me. Now, Kitchener stitch is kind of complicated for some people, but if you just remember that you're going to end with a purl stitch on the front row and you're going to end with a knit stitch on the right, and it's not really a purl stitch, it's just a purl direction is what we're doing. You put the yarn in purlwise to get started. You have your thread, your yarn here. Go in purlwise in the first stitch. You just put the sewing needle across purlwise, and you just pull it through. But you don't take it off the needle, just leave it sitting there. Then you go to the last stitch over here, and you put the needle in knitwise in the back, and you pull it through. Now, the thing to watch out for is right here when you're pulling it. Don't let it pull up over that first needle. Bring it back behind that first needle and pull it tight. There. What I like to do usually is I work underneath like that, but it would have been hard for you to see, so I had to do it on top. Now, we did that first little section. Now we're ready to start taking stitches off. And the way you do that is you put the needle in knitwise in the front stitch and you pull it off, just the front stitch. Then you go purlwise into the next stitch and you pull it tight. Well, not too tight, just tight. Then you go to the back and you put your needle in purlwise there, and you take it off the needle, and then you go in knitwise in the next stitch, and you pull that like that. So what you're doing is you're going knit, purl, purl, knit, knit, purl, purl, knit. So I go knitwise here, take it off, and purlwise into the next stitch. Then at the back, I go purlwise, take it off, knitwise into the next one. So it's always knit, purl, purl, knit. So the front is going to be knit, knitwise, take it off, purlwise into the next one. And for the back, you can purl, knit. See, slip it off purlwise, go in the next stitch knitwise. And now you can start to see what's going to happen to your toe. It makes a nice edge right there. This is also a technique you can use if you have a really wide garment, or like a towel or something that you're making, and you make both sides and you want to hook them together. You can hook them together with Kitchener stitch. I like using Kitchener stitch for that. So the front, knit, purl. And the back is purl, knit. Just take it off purlwise, put the needle in the next stitch knitwise. So always end with a purl up here, and you always end with a knit up there. Knit, purl here. Purl, knit back here. Be careful not to let those front stitches slip off when you're working on the back. So you have to watch both needles at the same time very carefully. Knit, purl, I'm going to do the back one. Purl, knit, there. Back to the front, knit, off, purl. It's easier if you're just doing it yourself, sitting in your chair. It's hard if you're reaching around a camera to do it. Purl, knit. We're almost done. We only have 3 stitches left on each needle. We're about to finish our sock. It's been a long little journey that we went on, but we did it. Knit, purl, to the back, purl, knit. Now these last stitches you have to be extra careful with so they don't slip off. Knit, purl, purl, knit. And the last stitches are not really that important, but we can do it anyway. All you're doing is slipping the front off knitwise, and then you're slipping the back one purlwise, and then you run the yarn through that, and it's going to look kind of funky right here, but don't worry about that because we're going to run that yarn to the inside. The most important part is that we just finished our sock. Look, it's done. We have a sock now. And there's the toe. It looks kind of square. Don't worry about it. It'll round off as you wear it. So now to get that yarn right, to get that end looking better, put your hand in through the sock. Hello there. And get your needle here. And what I like to do is I like to look at how this is arranged a little bit, and I find a spot to stick it in that it'll secure that little end, and then I can grab that needle on the inside with my other hand and pull it inside. And then when you see the outside, it looks a little bit better. Yeah, looks nice. And now all that's left to do is to weave in your ends. And you want to weave the ends in on the inside. So we'll just go ahead and flip our sock inside out. We have an end at the very end, and we have an end at the beginning. That's all we have. They're quick and easy to do. Now when you weave in these ends at the top, this is the most important thing to watch out for. You don't want to weave your ends in that way, because this is the part where you're going to be stretching out to put your sock on, and if you weave in your ends that way, then you're going to stretch it out each time you put your sock on, and the end is going to keep coming unraveled. So the best way to weave in your end is down this way, because it won't ever get stretched out. So just come through here and wrap it around. I find a ridge from where I did my knit one purl one before, where that ribbing was, and I just go along the edge of that ridge. And I just pick up each little stitch along that ridge like this. And I pull the yarn through there. And don't pull it too tight, pull it just right. Just like that. I didn't mean to pull it off the needle, it was an accident. Then you thread your needle again if you mess up like I just did. Then look at that spot where you just ran it through and skip the first stitch and then run it back through till you're about halfway. There. So if you skip that first stitch, then that first little stitch helps to secure the end there. Now you can trim that and make sure not to cut any of your sock. There. Now that end is woven in nice and neat. See? When you stretch it out, it's not going to mess it up at all. And the toe part for weaving in is really easy. You can just run it straight across the toe if you want. That's what I usually do. And just pick up the little threads across here. I pick a color. And that one's going to be these pink ones. I picked wrong. You have chosen unwisely. I'll pick up these, the green ones instead. They're easier. Now I have chosen wisely. There. Run that through like that. Don't pull it too tight though. And then I skip the first stitch. And I go back through the rest of them. The reason why I go back through is just to secure it a little bit better, so it doesn't come unraveled in the washing machine. There. We're done. Cut that last little thing. Ta-da! Our sock is really finished now. Hey, where'd you come from? Oh, it's just a little piece I cut off earlier. Now, turn it right side out again. There's our sock. Our beautiful hand knit sock. And now you can arrange it so that that toe looks nice like that. I like to do that. I like to fold it in half and it just looks so pretty. Ta-da! There's our beautiful sock. There's the other side. See how pretty? I like that heel. And I'm looking forward to wearing my sock. So there it is. All done. Congratulate yourself. Pat yourself on the back for a job well done. We finished our sock. Yay! Now it's time to make another. This is called Second Sock Syndrome, SSS. It's when you look at your finished sock and you say, oh, I want to make another one, but do I really want to make another one? But let me tell you, the second sock is going to be a lot easier than the first one was. So just cast on and get started on it. So wish you luck with your second sock. Don't let the second sock syndrome keep you from completing your socks. And so keep those needles. Boop. Go ahead and get started casting on and enjoy making your next sock. See you in the Bernat forum. Bye.